You are listening to the new man beyond the macho jerk and the new age wimp. Your host is men's coach Tripp Lanier.
Do you worry that you're never going to have a fulfilling sex life? Is it possible you're a lousy sexual partner without even knowing it? And for as much as we think about sex, why are most guys so ignorant when it comes to being good lovers? Christiane Pelmas is back to talk about how to build sexual confidence, how your sex life is related to success, and why you may want to masturbate even more. All right, today we're talking about men and sex. And for as much as guys think about sex, it seems like most of us have no idea that our sexual lives are the equivalent of ordering off of the children's menu. So most of us have no clue what to do sexually. We don't want to admit it, but that's true, especially if we've been looking at pornography as a how-to guide. So very little, if any, information is passed down from previous generations. In our culture, we don't have a sit down with our fathers about what to actually do to please our partners or to create more pleasure for ourselves. And most of us will never even talk about sex with our parents or our elders, and maybe not even with our friends. So it would be a very rare occurrence in our culture to find a woman who could give us hands-on education. The end result is that many guys, whether they want to admit it or not, they feel insecure, they feel inadequate, or they even feel shame when it comes to sex. Worse, they have a sense of false confidence because their partner is faking pleasure or they're unwilling to provide valuable feedback for fear of rocking the boat. So what if there was another way? What if you could learn how to truly feel powerful when you were being sexual with your partner? What if you could become a student of sexuality and build confidence without all the crazy relationship awkwardness that accompanies sex? So that's why I've asked Christiane Pelmas to join us again. She's got over 2 decades worth of experience in the realm of relationships and sexuality, and she's the creator of the Magnificent Lover course for men, which you can learn more about at magnificentlover.com. Christiane, welcome back.
Thank you, Tripp. It's so good to be here again.
I'm just going to say boner and get it out of the way. I want to get that.
That's the one word we have to get out of the way.
Don't say boner.
No.
Okay. Got it out of the way.
Good job.
Maybe we're going to have fun on this call. So we'll give us an idea of what you do to help men and women sexually. Kind of fill us in on your world.
Yeah. Mostly what I do is give permission. Because we've got a lot of innate, as mammals, we've got a lot of curiosity and a lot of desire for play, and a lot of intelligence that comes with this package of our bodies. So we've been trained out of our curiosity, we've been trained out of our intelligence, we've been trained out of our play, and we've been trained out of our desire. So mostly what happens is permission. Hey, what if you do this? Hey, what if you slow down? Hey, what if you breathe here? And so much happens when we are given the permission to do what would probably come more naturally if we weren't shamed and neutered out of things that really are part of our phenomenal, evolutionary adaptation. So permission for a lot of things, and it goes a long way.
Okay, and so what kind? And I've worked with you. My wife and I have worked with you. We've had the opportunity to experience the what you do, and I like to tell people it's kind of like I feel like a senior citizen who's got an iPhone, and then the grandson comes in and says, "Hey, did you know you can do this or you could do that?" And it just blew my mind because I thought my sex life was already pretty great, and then you've opened up a whole new world for me and my wife. So, when people come to you, what has them reach out to you to begin with? What are the types of things that they're saying? Hey, we want help with this. Kind of give me an idea of that.
Yeah, these days it's a pretty common occurrence for men to show up with this thing that our culture has called erectile dysfunction or premature ejaculation. So we bring those down to ED and PE, and they're terrible terms. But that's pretty much where it's at for a lot of men. that for one reason or another, because of use of porn or fear or shame or lack of having permission to be curious, or a relationship that has lost a lot of its desire because of, whatever, men find that they're not getting hard when they want to get hard. They're not staying hard as long as they want to stay hard, as long as their partners want them to stay hard. That's probably the biggest single complaint happening these days.
And then what are women? Do women come to you as well?
Yeah. Women, the parallel complaint for women is loss of desire, loss of the capacity to feel the impulse to have sex, the impulse toward her partner, or the impulse towards self-pleasure or masturbation. That women are finding that their orgasms are getting smaller and slighter and disappearing entirely.
And so they're coming in, guys are coming in, well, there's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with my body, or even a woman's coming in and say, well, what's wrong with me? Maybe I'm just getting old. We come up with this stuff, but you see something else. What do you see when people are coming in and they're telling themselves these stories that, oh, well, my sex life is just over. The glory days of my sex life are in the past. Well,
so let's put this in perspective, Tripp, because the age ranges of the folks I work with are, 21, 22, sometimes 19 to 70s. So the predominant age, the average age of the clients I work with is under 45. So when we talk about the glory days, actually the ED and the PE, and I'm using those terms reluctantly because they're quick, they're happening with men in their 20s. And that's not uncommon. So just to put that out there, that we're actually finding an epidemic of the younger generations having these complaints that we used to think were just, oh, this is just because you're getting older. And even that's erroneous. There's no reason why our sex drive should go down the toilet when we're in our 70s. Quite the contrary. So I want to make that clear, to give men permission who are listening, who are in their 20s and 30s, and like, hey, that's me. They're describing me. Yeah. And for all sorts of reasons, that's true. And it's true for women as well. Women in their 20s are coming and saying, I can't figure out how to have, desire anymore. I just, I'm with this amazing guy and I don't want to have sex. I'd rather do the laundry.
Okay. What goes on in your mind when somebody says that? Do you connect something in there, or do you get curious about something? I just love to see from your perspective, because it can be this fatal story. Imagine what happened, how long they've been in this world before they reached out and even said something to you. I just think about the years that they don't get back in their lives, especially enjoying sex. So, what do you see possible when somebody says a story like, I just don't feel my desire anymore?
Yeah, it's a pretty straight shot. That's the beautiful thing about this. It's a pretty straight shot. It can feel really elusive, but the straight shot is that the question to have here for all of these folks, but for women, we're talking her capacity to actually slow down and feel the impact, in any area of her life. And is she actually able to stop, slow down, feel joy here, feel pleasure there? Or has she gotten so focused on achieving and getting and learning in a very masculine way that she's no longer available to receive the impact of pleasure, joy, anything that might come, not just sex. A lot of this comes from trauma, from being touched in ways we don't want to be touched, from feeling like our beauty and our attraction is not safe. Women learn to close things down, and if we close down in one area, all areas close down. So it's not like we can just choose, well, I'm not going to do this one thing, but I get to still have all this other stuff.
Right.
Just, sadly, it's not a buffet menu like that. So for women, it's different than for men. And for men, what seems most relevant is their level of shame, the level of permission that they have given themselves, or they've been given, to trust that their body is actually responding to the field in a really profound way. So if
So what does that mean there? That you
Yeah.
kind of lost me there. What does that mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I'm with this woman I think is just so hot, and I have been like, wow, fantasizing about this woman. I finally got a date with her, and here we are, we're on a date, and now we're actually going to go into the bedroom. And oh my God, I'm not hard. How can this be? This woman has been the object of my desire for months now, you know, and I'm not hard. My first instinct, my first response is, what the hell is wrong with me?
Yeah.
How can I not be hard? But actually, what we have to learn how to do is, whoa, what am I not seeing here? What am I not telling the truth about? Why am I not hard? Not as in, I need to get hard and I should be hard, but whoa, there's something I'm not knowing about myself here, and I need to know it, or I'm not going to go forward. I like to say that the penis is actually the most intelligent organ. That it's the mind is not what.
I don't know about that. It's gotten me into some trouble.
Well, let's say the mind and the penis together, brain and the penis.
I'll just take my penis out of the running here. How's that?
Don't take your penis out of the running.
All right.
No, we can talk about that, the kind of trouble. But to actually allow that something's happening that needs to happen. And how do we encourage our curiosity rather than insist that a certain thing happen so that we do this dreaded thing called perform?
Let's talk about it. Where's this performance that we talk about shame, and we grow up with thoughts, we grow up with things that we inherit from parents and family and culture and religion and all that kind of stuff. And that gets into our head and gets in the way of us enjoying sex. Correct? Is that a way? Okay. And then there's this idea that I've got to perform. So where do we get this idea from? I can remember being a young adult and feeling a need to, oh my gosh, I better show up a certain way here, or I'm going to be a moron. Or the first time I'm with a new partner, it's like, oh my gosh, is that it? Is that why I've got to rise to the occasion?
Yeah, literally. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're taught that you need to know about her anatomy more than she does. And we're taught that. Women are taught that. You know, the first thing we ask after we've been with a new guy, our women friends say, did he give you an orgasm? Did he know, did he do X, Y, and Z, rather than, were you able to show him what it is that turns you on? Was he curious about learning your particular anatomy? We have a whole culture that just assumes that there is a specific thing that needs to get done, and that you're the one as the masculine who's going to go in and just figure it all out. So you're not taught to stand in front of a new woman and say, hey, show me what's so cool about your body. Tell me what turns you on. You show me the parts of your body that you love to have touched the most. And then it's not just a one deal inquiry. So you touch her and you say, like that? You know, do you like it harder? Do you like it softer? Is this right? And you're in a dialogue. But if we have shame about our bodies, then mostly what's going to happen is I'm just going to expect you to do something to me. And my standards are going to be pretty low. My orgasm's going to be pretty quick, but that's my standard. So if you can't perform that way, then we're both going to feel like, you're not doing something right.
Yeah. Well, it's just powerful because, I like to think of anxiety. Chip Conley was a guy that we had on this, on the program, and he talked about anxiety being when uncertainty is multiplied by powerlessness. And I'm imagining if I'm anxious, I'm not going to really be that aroused. Like it's hard it's difficult. I won't use the word hard. It's difficult for me to get aroused if I feel this like, oh, what's going to happen here? And so if I'm uncertain about my partner and what works with her, and I'm uncertain about what to do about that, I don't feel like I can do anything about it. Well, now I'm in that place where I'm going to start to lock down and be in that fearful place instead of aroused and curious, as you said.
Absolutely, you are. And it's so fascinating because sex and fear don't really go together. They're like oil and water. But we've learned over the years to do some pretty significant overriding. And men particularly have learned how to use what is a pretty noble attribute, this mission-driven attribute that the masculine has in spades. We've taught you how to enroll that task in your sex. And that's just it's a disaster, actually.
So you're saying we've turned it into like, all right, I've got a mission here. I'll make her come 3 times. I'm going to do these 5 positions, and then I'm going to get out of there. And
exactly.
And then I'm going to write it down in my journal, my sex journal.
Oh God. Well, if that even happens, that's, right.
After I take a nap.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And so bringing that kind of energy, that kind of conquest energy, that mission energy, you're saying doesn't help.
No, it gets the job done, but is that what you really want to be experiencing in your sex life? But that's actually what we're taught. Men are taught and women are taught that that's actually a successful sex life.
Oh, well, then no wonder we don't get that excited about it after a while. So,
yes, I say thank you to the phallus for not showing up to that. Somebody's got to go on strike here.
Now I get why he's got the brains here. He's saying this doesn't work for me. This isn't exciting.
No, you go in, but I'm staying back here. I'm done.
I think we had somebody else on the show that said when he would work with people, he was a therapist, and they would come in for sexual erectile dysfunction, ED. You said that he would ask them if they had a hard time getting an erection with their mistress, and like, no, I don't have a problem. With my mistress, it's no problem. It's just my wife. I have erectile dysfunction.
Absolutely.
Well, the point being is like, yeah, there's something to address there. There's something off sexually.
Yeah, absolutely. And we need to listen, not override it, not medicate it.
Well, a lot of guys listening, I can imagine, would just be happy to simply have more of the plain old vanilla sex. He'd be psyched to have sex more than once or twice per month with his partner. So how is there some way that we, how does he get help in this situation?
So the guy who is actually just saying, I just want to have sex once or twice a month. How do we help him have sex once or twice a month?
I'd be happy just with more of the same, just the plain old sex I got. And, he doesn't even realize there's another world available to him. He just wants, he's not even getting enough of the less than average stuff in his life. He just wants more of that. Like, how do we help that guy?
Well, I'd love to help him by expanding his expectations. And if he's listening to your show, then probably he's already a little bit curious. And so permission to say, you know what we've been taught, this idea that we can have that, give her 3 orgasms and then we're good. I check it off my list. That's leaving so much on the table that we don't even know about. What if there could be so much more than that? And what if your sex could actually inform the rest of your life in a way that has you more abundant in many ways, including financially? What if your sex energy were inspiring your generative capacity in your life?
Let's talk about that. Let's bring that down to earth. So, because you've been on the show before, and you said that there's really no difference between our sexual energy and our creative energy, our generative energy. And so, if we're blocking our sexual energy, then we're also blocking our ability to go out in the world and create.
We absolutely are. Yeah. So what we do in our sex, how we do our sex is in many ways how we do our life. If we're satisfied doing this thing over here in our sex, chances are that level of down, that low level game is infiltrating how we're doing the rest of our lives. We don't get to pick and choose.
Wow. I mean, that's really powerful. And so for the guy that's out there that says, hey, I just want a little bit more of the lousy stuff, where else is that showing up in his life? Where is he tolerating when there's so much more possible?
Yeah.
And I could just imagine encouraging that guy, well, would you be willing to take a stand that you want to have an exciting sex life?
Right. Exactly.
Like I'm only going to live this one time. I want to have an amazing, exciting sex life, a fulfilling, exciting sex life. Instead of feeling resigned to, well, that's never going to happen. If I want to maintain X, Y, Z in my life, then sex life goes out the window.
Right. Well, and there's a choice there, and it's a perfectly fine choice. We make them all the time. If we want to play small, then there are certain things that aren't going to be possible, and that's we come across people like that all the time.
And so, do you think it's that if a guy wants to have more sex in his life, that he needs to learn better skills and the anatomy piece that you've talked about here, so that his partner then craves having sex with him more, or is it more about learning to interact throughout the day leading up to being intimate?
It's definitely both. It's absolutely both. Here's an area where the practical educational awareness and the volume that we amass there is very important. And it's also important that we are people who are just turned on, that we're just turned on, that we're turned on by sex, that we're turned on by our partner, that we're turned on by our kids, that we're turned on by our job, that we're just turned on.
We're enthusiastic, not necessarily walking around with an erection for our kids.
No. Yeah, exactly. Turn on so I can define that turned on by our lives doesn't mean solely genital. But it could feel like alive in my whole body, not necessarily an erection, but wow, I can't, there's a fine line for me between being just, wow, I am fully alive here. I'm alert and like erect in my life.
Yeah.
And that does translate to the bedroom because I'm available for impact here. I'm making myself available to the impact of my life from all streams.
Beautiful. So let's talk about the course that you've created, the Magnificent Lover. What had you create it and say, okay, I'm working with these people. Like, I need to create a course. Why? What's at the course? What's going to happen in this course?
Yeah, a number of things. First of all, brotherhood's really important. Being witnessed by men, it's true for women too, that men need to be able to share their experiences of their sexuality and their shaming with each other. And that a lot of permission that men get for the bigness of their energy and learning how to ride it comes from men and as well as women. So immediately just working one-on-one with men is really beautiful and effective. And yet putting a man in a room full of 11 other men and inviting them to engage with each other on like, here's how I was shamed. Here's what I learned growing up. Here's what I didn't learn. Here's the story I have about what it means to be a man. That is invaluable. And then also giving those men the opportunity to work with women in a variety of settings and exercises and practices with whom they don't have any expectation of, or they have very little expectation of performing, and they have no pre-programming because we haven't been living together for 20 years and you haven't told me to take the garbage out 5 times a day and you haven't nagged me and you haven't, all that stuff. Like, here we are, there's this woman, I'm attracted to her, but I don't have any pre-programming about she hates me. She doesn't think
right. No
baggage. So I get to really experience the pureness of my story and my shame with this woman who's actually here just to care for me. She's here just to say, oh, what I notice about you is, what I feel about you and sitting in front of you, and what I feel is really strong about you, and really to encourage him and to hold him accountable to to his greatness. That's a phrase we use all the time. Holding him accountable to his greatness, and when he has lost sight of it.
Well, I mean, that's amazing because you bring in women. There's a team of women, and you lead the men through exercises with these women, and through that, these guys start to get a baseline of like, well, this is who I really am sexually.
Yeah.
This is what's possible for me sexually when I can leave this other baggage aside. They get to see themselves in a new, powerful way.
They absolutely do. They get to slow things way down. That's another thing that we're not taught, is to go so slow. So notice what's happening for you as you're sitting in front of this woman. Notice the story that comes up. Do you feel inferior? Do you feel more desire than you know what to do with? What do you do with yourself there? How do you remember how to breathe? And how do you remember how to speak what's happening for you? So that you can have an experience of connection with this woman, and you can have an experience of yourself in that connection, rather than just going to that thing we were talking about where I'm going to perform in this particular way and get this job done. And whew, I did it. I did my job.
Yeah.
So they get to slow way down and they get to notice, wow, you know what? Sitting with this woman, I notice this thing happens for me. Sitting with this other woman, I notice this thing happens for me. And they get to practice speaking those things and watching the impact that their truth has on these women.
Wow. Big deal. What types of guys show up to your courses?
We call the Magnificent Lover course in its current form is a somewhat of an advanced course. So men who are already working with folks like you, who have a language about their experience, who can speak to at least their current experience with some words that help convey what they're going through. So it's men right off the street who've never done any self-reflection would have a hard time knowing how to really show up in the course.
Right.
But we've had men from 23 to 65 so far. Men who have come, who are single and have been single for a while and are ready to come back into the world of dating and sexuality and engagement there. We've had men who are coming out of marriages that were sexless and fairly high shaming. We've had men who are really involved in beautiful partnerships and they want more. They want to learn more about their stallion and they want to get more permission so they can take it back to their woman. We've had all sorts of men.
Okay, cool. So it's not just one size fits all. It's for anyone that is really ready to step into this and understands the power and importance of having a vital sex life. Yep. Okay. Well, I'll tell these guys where to go to learn more, but I'm just curious, like the guy that's thinking, well, what can I do today? What's one thing that a guy could do today to improve his sex life?
Yeah. So the thing I always suggest, because it's something each man has control over, first of all, is to slow everything he does down. Doesn't sound very sexy, but everything. I'm talking about, you're showering. I'm talking about how you run your board meeting or how you have a conversation with your son or how you make love with your woman and how you touch yourself particularly. Slow down so that you have the chance to actually have your experience. That's the first thing. And then along those lines, in your self-pleasure, in your masturbation, masturbate and do it even if you're getting a lot of sex, and use that exercise, use that practice to increase your awareness of what's happening in your body, because everything comes from that.
So don't get lost in your fantasy or don't get lost on something on a screen, but actually masturbate with the intention of having your experience, like what's actually happening in my body when I'm touching myself.
What's actually happening in my body when I'm touching myself, and have the expectation, set the bar about 5 levels higher in terms of touching your whole body, not just your cock. And expect that you're going to have sensation in other parts of your body. So actually allow that there is an extraordinary machine that you've been endowed with that has the capacity to feel pleasure you probably you can't even grasp in this moment. Don't just touch your cock. Don't just do the thing that you've learned how to do. Move out, expand your neurology, create new brainwave patterns. All of that is critical. And you can do that right now.
Here we go, guys. You just got permission to go masturbate even more.
Yeah.
And to do it with a new intention in a way that's going to impact your entire life. So if you want to learn more about Christiane's program, The Magnificent Lover, just go to magnificentlover.com and shoot her a note there, and that'll put you guys in touch, and you guys can discuss what's possible from there. So, Christiane, thank you so much. I feel like we just scratched the surface here, but I want to leave some questions out there. I want these guys to contact you. I want them to talk to you and create a relationship with you so they can dive in deeper.
Thank you, Tripp. It's always a pleasure. Thanks so much.
If these interviews are helping you, then please visit The New Man on iTunes and leave us a positive review so others can discover the show more easily. Thanks for listening.